Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City of Colwood Planning and Land Use Committee meeting for Monday, June 2nd, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order first by acknowledging with respect that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, and we're honored to have the opportunity to build strong working relationships with the people of the Songhees and Kisepsum nations. I would seek a motion to approve the agenda for this evening, item 2.1. Thank you, Mr. Perry. All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 3, the adoption of the minutes. So we're looking to adopt the Planning and Land Use Committee meeting minutes from May 5th, 2025. If I can have a mover for that recommendation. Thank you, Trina. All those in favor? Unanimous. We do have an option, item 4, for public participation this evening. Members of the public are provided an opportunity to present concerns or ask questions of the committee. Notably this evening, comments pertaining to bylaw number 1700-10, Colwood OCP 1700-2018, amendment number 10, environmental development permit area as amended, are prohibited at this meeting. But if there is anyone from the public that would like to take the opportunity to speak at this time, please feel free to do so. You just need to press the silver button at the base of the microphone, which will turn the light red there for you. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, Mr. Chairman and all members present, my name is Andrew Hewlett. I live on 547 Windthrop Road. And I just wanted to speak to the new development that's proposed there across the road from us. My understanding is a 34-unit development that's there. And I don't know a lot of the details or background, but my understanding is that development is supposed to reflect, you know, more or less the character and of the surrounding area. And just from my perspective, given that most of the places around there are single-family dwellings on fairly large lots, having a 34-unit condo or townhouses right across the road seems quite out of step with, from my perspective, the scope of it seems quite different than the surrounding area, the housing that's already there, since would be such a high increase in density. So that's my only concern, and you know, my hope it might be scaled down a bit, because it seems like such a big contrast from single-family dwellings all of a sudden to have 34 units right across the road. So that's my only thing I wanted to express, and my hope is that people would at least consider that if that's out of step with the surrounding community status at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to come out. Thanks very much. Let's see, we have another speaker.
Yep. Bernard Perrin. I'm co-owner with my wife at Goldfinch, 155 Goldfinch and 195 Goldfinch. And it's with regard to the amendment to the zoning for 221 Goldfinch. According to the agenda, you're looking at changing that to R7, I believe. And I'm not in favor. We're not in favor. Again, it's with regard to density. It's really not the street, which is a dead end. It's a cul-de-sac with the art center at the bottom. We've seen already a significant increase in traffic and parking problems down there with events going there. I can just imagine what 8 units on the 221 lot would create in terms of the vehicles and the traffic down the street. So I hope you take that in consideration. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to speak this evening?
Hi, my name is Bruce Chambers. I'm at 551 Windthrop, directly across. This is regarding the 546, the rezoning. And I'm echoing Andrew's comments. We're neighbors. And it's just the same thing up the hill. The character of that development is totally out of step with what's going on. And in addition, the numbers of people and the numbers of cars are going to, the traffic study that was done said there's going to be a little impact to it, but talking about 60 cars potentially, 30 families, and it's a family arrangement. So it's going to increase. The traffic study said it'll be minimal, like 14 trips a day or something like that. But you know, when you have people out there with kids, they're going to go to soccer and school and work, and so I just don't believe that the traffic will be minimal impact. And I have a series of other concerns with it, but I won't kind of labor it here. I'm going to rebut the planner's comments, and I'm going to write a thing and submit it for consideration at the council. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it.
And I'd like to just add too, we kind of wondered where the numbers of 14 trips a day came from with, well, yeah, okay, the traffic study, but it doesn't seem to make sense with 34 units. That there would only be, say, 14 or 18 trips a day. So, you know, maybe we could just get more information on how these numbers were arrived at. And anyone who's been on Windthrop and traveled on it would know that a lot of extra cars like that is definitely going to have an effect. Like I drive down Windthrop, if I have to wait for 4 cars to go by on Wishart, that's busy. So all of a sudden 60 more cars, that's going to have an impact. So we're just kind of wondering where some of the numbers come from.
Thank you. And sorry, just
Thank you.
if you could just give the clerk your name and street just for
Okay.
the record, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm at 551 also, Windthrop, across from the development, and I'm Lori Reynolds. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate, is there anyone else coming forward at this point?
Yeah, I live on Goldfinch Road and my name's Todd Eliason, 215 Goldfinch. Anyway, I'm just a little bit concerned about what's going to happen, what's happening here in Colwood. We have the Arts Center down the road as, you know, it has lots of traffic, and I'm noticing the parking lots aren't attended. It seems like a dust cloud going around our neighborhood lately. And I think that if you guys are considering letting any of these developments go on, that you need to consider a roundabout up at the top where the school is, and you got to maintain parking for these places, because it's not fair that there's such a dust bowl going on down there at the end of Goldfinch, and we still got ditches along our road. We're paying high taxes. And, you know, it's a bit of a mess. So I'm thinking that, you know, as far as planning goes, which you guys are in charge of, and maybe you should look into these things so, you know, we don't have to deal with the outfall of people's unableness to explore the neighborhoods. Maybe somebody should get on foot down there and take a look around when these shows are going on and make sure that things are being accounted for. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else to speak this evening? No. Well, I'll thank those folks who took the time to come out and share your thoughts with us. I hope that you find some of the answers you're looking for in some of the materials that that will be presented either here or at a future council meeting. And certainly to the last gentleman and others that have commented on specific circumstances. Your comments do form part of the record, and you know, staff are here and will note take. So I think, you know, I appreciate your commentary on the parking lot there. You don't know there's a problem unless somebody brings it forward. So I digress a little bit, but I do genuinely appreciate when we hear about these things, because that's the only way we can really try to do anything. So with that, we'll move forward to the agenda into new business, item 5. Item 5.1, I believe Mairi is going to give us a presentation update on the status of a number of land use planning files.
Okay, good evening, committee members. Thank you. So yes, this evening I will be providing an update to the committee. This is just a verbal update with a presentation only, and there's no staff report that accompanies the verbal update. So the purpose of this evening is simply to provide a status update on agenda items that you've reviewed in the last 6 months. Staff's intent is to do this on a biannual basis now. So you'll receive these verbal updates in June and December of each year. We certainly recognize that you review applications and projects, and then if you're not necessarily following council meetings, you may not know the updated status of those applications. So this is just really intended to close the loop on what you've reviewed so far. So this is sort of the format that we've developed for this initial update. Each PowerPoint slide represents a meeting, and we've just identified the agenda items that were on each meeting. So starting with November, this is the meeting where you reviewed the joint OCP amendment and rezoning application for 3698 Metchosin Road, as well as the rezoning application for 499 Royal Bay Drive. So these two applications formed part of the larger city land swap process, which enabled the Quarry Park expansion lands for the city. The OCP amendment for 3698 Metchosin Road enabled an additional 500 units in Latoria South. And then the Royal Bay Drive application enabled an additional 11 single-family lots. So since you reviewed the application in November, both applications have been adopted by council as of March 10th, 2025. And since then, the land swap has also occurred. So the Quarry Park expansion lands are under the ownership of the city of Colwood now. So next, getting into December, you reviewed the OCP amendment for the updated environmental development permit guidelines. So you did forward the staff recommendation with an amendment to direct staff to explore the predetermined SPIAs. So since you reviewed that in December, the development permit guidelines were adopted actually last week by council. So those development permit guidelines are now our most recent environmental development permit guidelines that we will assess environmental development permits against. Staff are also currently undergoing the process, an RFP process to find a consultant to do the work for the predetermined SPIAs. Next was the antenna system siting application. So you forwarded that staff recommendation to council, and that was for the CAO to send a letter of concurrence, which essentially just provides Colwood's approval for the antenna system. That was also carried by council in January. The city is quite removed from that process since that letter of concurrence, because it is a federal level application, but it does appear that the antenna is under construction at the moment. So next, getting into January. So this was the first item that you reviewed of the year, and that was the OCP amendment for the incorporation of the Gateway and Triangle Lands Vision and Action Plan. And then you did forward that staff recommendation to council, and then there will be more on that in the next one. The February Planning and Land Use Committee meeting was canceled. We just didn't have any agenda items for that one. Next is March. So staff brought back the incorporation of the Gateway and the Triangle Lands Vision and Action Plan to recommend to the committee to rescind your recommendation to forward it to council. Since the committee reviewed that in January, staff brought back the Bill 44 project. So we're incorporating pieces of the Gateway and Triangle Lands Action Plan into the Bill 44 project. So that is why that we requested the rescinding of that motion. And just on the Bill 44, staff will be bringing an update to you on the implementation of Bill 44 in August. So you will get to see a bit of that incorporation of that Triangle Lands Vision and Action Plan then. Next in March, you reviewed the North Latoria Visioning Project update. So you forward the staff recommendation to council, which was to initiate a local area plan for North Latoria based on the conceptual plan that we presented at that meeting. Council also approved that recommendation in March. So since then, staff have initiated a feasibility assessment for that corridor. We have initiated the local area planning process and are processing rezoning applications. So definitely lots going on for that project. And then in April, you reviewed the rezoning application for 2420, 2426, and 2428 Souk Road. So this is that rezoning application at Souk Road and BMP. It was to rezone those 3 properties to TGA1 to enable 2 6-story buildings. So you forwarded the staff recommendation to council with an amendment to remove the word asphalt in the pathway condition. This application did go to council on May 1st, where the amending bylaw did receive first 3 readings. Staff did provide some more clarification on why we provided that level of detail for the pathway condition and requested council to re-add the word asphalt. So council did pass that motion to re-add the word asphalt and gave the bylaw 3 readings from there. So this is just a summary. So since November, you've reviewed 7 applications or projects. 3 of those applications have been completed. 1 application has been deferred or changed in scope, which is the incorporation of the Triangle Lands Vision and Action Plan. And then 3 applications are still in progress. So thank you. As we mentioned, this is sort of our first verbal update. We are certainly willing to evolve the format of the update if you have any suggestions of what might make more sense. But we plan to bring back another update in December. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you, Mairi. I think that's really helpful for the committee to to get a broader view or an overarching view of the decision-making process for the past year. So thank you for putting that together. I'll turn it over to Councillor Jansen here. Questions?
Nothing exciting. I don't have any better suggestions. That's bang on. It's nice to be reminded of the valuable work undertaken by this committee. But it's also nice to close the loop and circle back with a decision taken by council that may have differed, which is one of my points. A couple things. Perhaps you can talk about the why and why council changed back to the asphalt wording, just to close the loop for the committee.
Yeah, absolutely. So that condition was in the development agreement for the rezoning application. So staff used the development agreement as a tool to implement. So for us, the negotiation should be occurring at the time of rezoning, not later in a development application process, like at building permit or development permit. So for us, the more detail that's within a development agreement condition, the easier it is to implement. So for the example of the pathway condition, the level of treatment of asphalt just suggests that staff do not have to negotiate later in the process at detailed design if asphalt is deemed an appropriate treatment. And if that word wasn't in the development agreement, we may have to negotiate higher than what was agreed upon. That doesn't necessarily mean the pathway will be asphalt. It just means it can be, and staff don't have to negotiate that. So at detailed design, it could be asphalt or anything less than asphalt. The pathway there is currently a gravel trail as well. So asphalt would be an improvement to that trail.
Thank you. And that's exactly how I recall it, that the concern was trying to negotiate that later with removal if asphalt was deemed to be the most appropriate. We're not sure if that's the case, but it does allow staff to negotiate from a position of highest and best coating and everything in between. So that was a decision made by council. Can we circle back to 499 Roll Bay Drive, because that I made a note as soon as you said it. The last I had heard, that was back and forth with lawyers. Are you saying that has that property transferred to the city?
Yes, the expansion of Promenade Park has taken place, yes.
Right, because the last I had heard, it was complex and there was law firms involved, and of course there's what, 2 or 3 different parcels, and that's great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Mr. Perry?
I just want to say thank you for providing this. There are a select number of agenda items that I try my best to follow. Others, I always wonder what happened and where. In terms of format feedback, when some of the bullet points said like as amended, it'd be kind of nice for the things that I'm not staying extremely familiar with, just to know like what those amendments are, to kind of like understand the chronology and what was finally put through. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Perry. Thanks again, Mari. I think for the benefit of the folks that are here, I mean, a lot of it, is overarching kind of planning that may or may not be something that you're following, but I think there's some big wins in there for the community. As Councillor Jansen said, the land swap involving 499 Royal Bay Drive allowed the city to take sort of industrial gravel storage property and effectively turn that into mature tree parkland in the Upper Royal Bay area, as well as additional parkland to what will become a completed quarry park in Latoria South, leading to potentially an additional playing field and other space for community, a community center and other things. So really happy to be able to do that and net out with increased parkland. You also heard reference to Bill 44 in there, so something relevant for some of the items you've come forward to pay attention to this evening. That's the province's housing bills. There's a number of them that really have a significant impact on planning and land use in all municipalities in British Columbia. As you probably know, Colwood is subject to housing targets, and we recently had our wrist slap despite being on track to achieve those, for saying no to a development that actually contravened the official community plan. But at the end of the day, the province isn't interested in that. So I just wanted to make you aware of that is a major determining factor in decisions being made, not only here in the South Island, but across the entirety of the province. So with that, thank you, Mari. We'll move on to item 5.2. Kelsey is going to take us through the rezoning application for 3145 Metchosin Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I will be giving a brief presentation on the rezoning application for 3145 Metchosin Road. The applicant is requesting an amendment from the R1 zone to a new Metchosin Road 1 or MR1 zone to enable a 23-unit townhouse development. The final unit count will be determined at the time of development permit, but the new zone enables a 1.2 FAR. The property fronts Metchosin Road and is located approximately halfway between Wishart and Souk Road. It is a long lot spanning approximately 140 meters deep with an existing single-family dwelling and is currently zoned R1 and is designated as neighborhood in the OCP. The neighborhood designation supports ground-oriented multi-unit townhouses up to 3 stories with an FAR of 1.2. It seeks to maintain existing character while increasing housing diversity and to create a high degree of connection leading to local and frequent transit service. Staff are proposing a new MR1 zone, which enables the density envisioned as part of the neighborhood land use designation, specifically for townhomes. The regulations, including setbacks and lot coverage, are consistent with site standards from the province in response to the small-scale multi-unit or SMU legislation, as well as the setbacks outlined in the intensive residential design guidelines in the OCP. The intention is that other properties along Metchosin Road, particularly from Wishart to Souk Road, would rezone to MR1 to create uniformity and consistency as city policies seek higher density along arterial roads and high transit routes. Under SMU legislation, the property could be subdivided into approximately 10 to 12 lots, each permitting up to 4 units if connected to sewer. So Metchosin Road is classified as an arterial road, facilitating regional mobility and designated as a frequent transit network by both Colwood and BC Transit, which aims for higher transit frequency. As part of the Transportation Master Plan update, Metchosin Road is being considered for widening. Increasing density along arterial roads and reducing driveway accesses aligns with active transportation goals. Road dedication is necessary to support this infrastructure. So Wood End Road is currently a dead-end road with plans for a cul-de-sac bulb when and if the neighboring property develops. There's currently no direct connection from Wood End Road to the subject property. I'm just going to go back a couple slides to just show where Wood End Road is at the very end there. So the development agreement condition requires the applicant to accommodate, plan for, and facilitate vehicle access for the Wood End Road connection. While the applicant is granted right in, right out only access off Metchosin Road, as that is currently their only access, they must develop the land for the eventual connection to Wood End Road. Staff have been in active conversations with the neighboring property, which directly connects to Wood End Road. However, a formal application has not yet been submitted. The transportation impact assessment notes that both accesses are viable and will have minor impacts on the surrounding road network. The applicant has provided their preferred development agreement condition, which commits to one access for the entirety of the project, and Wood End Road is only considered if the cul-de-sac is completed by the time the applicant submits for development permit. Staff do not recommend this approach as it limits the project's flexibility over its lifespan and does not achieve goals of reducing accesses off of arterial roads. The staff development agreement aims to ensure that access off Wood End Road is ultimately achieved. So the applicant is proposing the removal of 29 on-site bylaw protected trees and will be subject to the 2-to-1 tree replacement requirement at the time of building permit. To provide some assurance to the neighborhood, a development agreement has been negotiated that land clearing is not permitted until they have submitted a building permit. A development notification sign has been posted and postcards will be sent to properties within 100 meters of the site prior to readings of the amending bylaw, which is currently scheduled for June 23rd. The applicant also hosted a public consultation, which is appended to the staff report. So committee may wish to recommend the staff recommendation or any of the other options seen above. Committee may also recommend to council the applicant's development agreement wording for Wood End Road as seen in the staff report. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. The applicant is here and they can present next.
Thank you, Kelsey. Appreciate it. I just looked to the committee to see if anyone wants to ask questions now or wait until after the applicant presentation. Okay, so I think the consensus is we'd hear from the applicant before entertaining questions. So maybe we can move to that, please. You just have to hit the little silver button. There you are. Thank you.
Got it? Okay. Good evening. My name is Matthew Lawson. I'm the Director of Development at Abstract. I want to start off by thanking staff for the continued effort to progress our rezoning application at 3145 Metchosin Road. We appreciate Colwood's collaborative process and are happy to be here this evening to present and discuss our rezoning application in more detail. Joining me today is Adam Cooper, Director of Community Planning and Development at Abstract. I'd also like to highlight our design team, MJM Architects, Zebra Group, and J.E. Anderson, who have all contributed to the design. We've made a lot of progress over the last year in working with the community and city staff on our application. Prior to our online engagement session in August of 2024, our development team reached out to every direct neighbor through a door knocking campaign and was eventually able to get in contact with each neighbor. During these one-on-one meetings, we provided an overview of our site plan, and overall, our application was well received, with some comments around traffic and ensuring access would remain through Metchosin Road. It's important to note that at this time, Wood End was not considered as an access point. This led us to our online engagement session in August of 2024, where residents within a 1 kilometer radius of the site were provided notice of the meeting by mail. 5 neighbors were in attendance for the meeting. During the session, we provided a summary of the application, and neighbors were provided an opportunity to ask questions and engage in discussion with members of our team. The comments received were mainly around traffic and parking. This led us to our formal application later in August, and a couple months later, we received referral comments and then discussed them with staff at the DRC meeting. Overall, we felt the comments were minor, which led us to our resubmission in February of 2025. Over the last couple months leading up to PLUC, there's been a lot of discussions around access and how the terms would layer into the development agreement. We still feel that this has not been resolved, but I'll get into the details on this shortly. Abstract has deep roots as a local builder with a track record for building successful communities. Over our 25-year history, we've built over 620 homes across the CRD. We've been awarded Green Builder of the Year and have won Best Project of the Year on multiple occasions over the last 5 years. At the end of the day, we take a lot of pride in the communities we're part of. It's important to us that we make a meaningful, positive impact by building strong relationships, delivering high quality design, and helping create places that people are truly proud to call home. So since we're in the earlier stages of our application, we haven't designed elevations for the 3145. However, we do have some past and current project precedents to give you an idea of the design intent for this project. It would follow a similar traditional style with pitched roofs and traditional materials such as shingles, lap siding, and board and batten materials. At Abstract, we really pride ourselves in our attention to detail and delivering beautifully designed homes from the inside out. So here's the subject site and an aerial view. Located right on Metchosin Road, mid-block between Soup Road and Wishart Road. The site is just over 35,000 square feet and located within the Wishart North neighborhood of Colwood. It is currently zoned as R1 residential. We are seeking to rezone the property to RM1, which supports townhomes and an FAR of up to 1.2. We feel it's a great location for those seeking a family-friendly lifestyle. There are several amenities within a 1.5 kilometer radius, including multiple schools, Annandale Center, Hatley Park Center, and Royal Road Forest Loop. The immediate neighborhood is mostly consisting of single-family homes and duplex-style homes, but with Colwood's future vision of upgrading Metchosin Road and the OCP neighborhood designation supporting up to 3 stories, we're starting to see this area diversify into different forms of housing. A request to rezone the property is consistent with the official community plan that designates the site as neighborhood use, as I previously mentioned. This use supports developments that are ground-oriented, multi-unit residential, including townhomes and buildings up to 3 stories to a maximum FAR of 1.2. The site is also located in close proximity to the neighborhood center near Souk and Kelly Road, which permits multi-unit residential and mixed-use buildings up to 4 stories. As well, located across from the site, mixed-use employment center, which supports up to 6 stories. Our site is well connected to transit, with Metchosin Road designated as an arterial road and forming part of the frequent transit network. A bus stop is located within 150 meters of the property, and to our understanding, service frequency is expected to increase in the near future. Overall, we believe increasing density on our site aligns with Colwood's policy framework to support growth and helps achieve the objectives for sustainable development, improved housing supply, and walkable, well-connected neighborhoods. So frontage improvements. A 25-meter road right-of-way to accommodate future growth has been requested by staff. And in order to achieve this and support the growth, we have provided a road dedication. The red dashed line shown on the slide indicates the total area of dedicated land from our property. The existing property line has a slight curve, which results in the dedication ranging in width from about 2.3 meters to 3.5 meters. The right-of-way is currently planned to reflect a 2-lane condition with a turning lane and boulevard area, as shown on the drawing here. However, it's our understanding that Colwood is looking to expand this to a 4-lane condition through their transportation master plan update. So here's our proposed site plan. The townhomes have been designed and situated in the middle of the site with the straddle lane, shared access paths, private yards, and outdoor amenities, providing further building separation between the neighboring homes. The proposed site plan can comfortably accommodate 23 townhomes across 4 buildings at 3 stories high, and each will accommodate a private outdoor space and two-car parking, which will be a combination of interior tandem and side-by-side garages. There will also be 3 visitor stalls on site, one of which will be an accessible stall. It's important to note that no variances to parking have been requested here. All the buildings will be built to meet current energy step code requirements, and each unit will have a level 2 EV rough-in and be solar ready. Since making our initial application, discussions with Colwood staff around site access and road dedication requirements have evolved significantly. We were recently advised that the owners of 3157 Metchosin Road are preparing to submit a rezoning application. And as part of this application, they would be required to provide a land dedication for the completion of the cul-de-sac to extend the dead end at Wood End Road. The black dashed line on the screen illustrates the approximate location and extent of the cul-de-sac, which would create a new access option for 3145, one that would move traffic through the neighborhood instead of directly to Metchosin Road. Staff have advised they want our vehicle access to use this route, although at this current time it's not feasible. The proposed solution is to close our straddle lane access to Metchosin Road in the future, if and when the Wood End cul-de-sac is completed. While Abstract supports staff's vision of access from Wood End Road, we don't agree that closing an established crossing post-construction will result in the best outcome for the site plan, the street frontage, or the homeowners that will ultimately live there. It is a suboptimal planning outcome to design for access to Metchosin Road, only to abandon it in the future and close the straddle lane off with bollards. Thoughtful design and quality construction are part of our corporate DNA, and we simply do not agree that closing the straddle lane post-construction aligns with our values and represents the best outcome for the site and the surrounding neighborhood. Instead, we've proposed alternative language in the development agreement outlined on page 9 of the staff report, which would allow for the site access from Wood End Road only if the dedication is registered prior to a development permit application for 3145 Metchosin. If Colwood can secure the dedication, we believe we can improve the site design by orientating a building towards a street, creating ground-oriented homes directly connected to the sidewalk, bike lanes with no abandoned laneway terminating at Metchosin Road. The total proposed outdoor amenity space exceeds Colwood's guidelines of 3 meters squared per bedroom. We've included 2 planned amenity areas in the project. The first is a smaller seating area to the left of the screen there, which is integrated within a cluster of existing trees. This space totals to just under 49 meters squared. And at the rear of the site, we have a larger 168 meters squared outdoor space that will accommodate a family-oriented area, including naturalized play elements and open grassy area for members of the family to enjoy, even pets. And lastly, here we have some conceptual images to speak to and support the outdoor amenity space, the bench seating and for the treat areas along Metchosin Road, and then the naturalized play elements such as climbing logs and jumping rocks for the larger amenity space at the back. We believe our application is a strong fit with Colwood's vision for future growth, offering 23 family-friendly, energy-efficient townhomes within walking distance of amenities, transit, schools, and parks. The project aligns with the OCP's goals for ground-oriented housing, makes efficient use of the land, and supports sustainable, complete community. We look forward to answering any questions and discussing our application in further detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for the presentation. Abstract is obviously a well-known local company and does, as you say, have a great reputation. So I appreciate the spirit of partnership that you brought forward in working with staff on this. I will look for questions. I see Councillor Jansen is ready to go here.
Thanks, Matt, and thank you, Kelsey. Matt, don't go far, but my questions are for staff here to kick it off. I feel like there's a lot of moving parts here. If this, then that. Maybe this, maybe that. And I see that, you know, clearly staff have some concerns over the suggested language. Can you flush that out from the planning perspective, please? In a little more detail or a little more specificity, specifically the traffic, the ingress, the egress.
Yes, so we have been in discussions with this property owner about where we find ourselves in the planning process for a transportation master plan for the city of Colwood. As part of the transportation master plan, we are looking at Metchosin Road to be upgraded as an arterial road. And in this particular portion of Metchosin Road, we know the cross-section needs to be a 4-lane cross-section. It is what the recommendation is. And I will give it over to Joshua after I'm done explaining how this relates to the land use.
Gotcha.
For him to elaborate as to why along this frontage we have a fairly established need for 4-laning of Metchosin. Because the treatment that we give arterial roads that have that kind of that number of laning, we are continuously trying to reduce and minimize existing driveway access to ensure that there's adequate traffic flow. In terms of the planning component, we would also, the preferred design element that we would like to have along frontages is buildings that frame the street. As opposed to going sideways on a lot that is long and narrow, having buildings that are facing the road and create an appealing interface, as opposed to driveways that break up the pedestrian component of a road. Yeah, like the sidewalk broken up by driveways is always something that we try to avoid. And in this particular location where we see Metchosin Road being an arterial road and having the potential for 3 stories townhomes as the base, with potential appetite for even greater density in some locations as it gets closer to the mixed-use employment center along Souk Road. We want to see a better treatment along the road. We had discussed with the applicant the fact that we find ourselves in this awkward step where we are actively engaging with a transportation master planning process that will give us definitive answers on how to best treat and address Metchosin Road. But in absence of that definitive direction, we have created a development agreement condition that would allow us to plan for a rear access off of a local road and preserve the arterial with minimal vehicular access at a future point. And we understand that it is not ideal, but it is the timing at which this application has come forward that we are not able to be definitive on one access only. We want to give us the opportunity to create a better build form at a future time when this goes to a building permit. We hope that when we get there, we will have our transportation master plan completed and can guide an outcome.
Thank you. And you hit on a few things there, and I'm less interested in the specific engineering for that stretch, but I do recall that when we ran the model, clearly showed that twinning that portion leading up to Souk Road did alleviate some of our congestion issues. So, I mean, I fully anticipate that that would be the direction that council would go at some point in the future when we move in that direction. Back to Matt. So I made a note here, perhaps your corporate values don't quite align with our traffic realities. And I mean, I like the way you frame it, but, it did catch my attention. Clearly, staff are suggesting that this complex exit through to the rear. I've reviewed your language. It's all very flowery and it sounds great. And I circled the word if. It's hard for me to go to my neighbors and friends and tell them, don't worry about it. We got some language, but it rests, on a big if. But next thing you know, we're into lawyers to try and figure out the definition of the word, to figure out which way we're going. So I ask you, why are we here right now when I feel like I read this and more work can be done with regard to the access? And you mentioned the neighboring property is up for development. Have you spoken to them? Are you guys aligned? Are you on the same page? Can you not purchase this swath of land and get this moving at the back there? Those are some of my questions.
Joining here.
Yes, you want to join me?
Yeah, it gets complicated
Matt
for sure.
and company, sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
You want to take it?
Sure, I'll take a stab. I'm Adam Cooper, also Director of Development at Abstract. I've been working on the file before Matt took over, ran the community engagement effort, spoke to all the neighbors. We have been in conversation with the owners of 3157 Metchosin as well. I think for us, the heart of the matter is really, we don't like the idea of building out the site. We're trying to respond to what exists and design the best possible outcome from our perspective for that site. The access does not exist today, and we don't like the idea of, building the site, having homeowners move into this property, and then closing off the strata lane with bollards to the street. We feel that that's, I think the word Matt said was suboptimal, and we agree actually with Yasmin's comments about a better outcome is the building facing the street, ground-oriented homes framing the street. It's a more pleasant outcome, and actually is a better outcome for us too, because we think that we could actually add one more unit to our program if we were to be able to orient the building that way. What we're asking for is simply to say, we want to design the best outcome for what we're dealing with today, not for a future scenario that may or may not come to fruition. We understand, I'm a former transit planner myself from BC Transit. I'm fully alive to the reality of wanting the continuous street frontage without the interruption of the driveway and having the vehicles enter Metchosin Road at a controlled access point. I think, as we said, our brand is very important to us. Our reputation is important to us, and we want to do what we think is the best outcome. And we don't believe it's the best outcome to design the strata lane to Metchosin only to have it shut down in the future. For what it's worth, Matt mentioned there's only 5 or 6 people that really showed up. Right. But we did confirm to people at that time, because it was our understanding that access would be right in, right out from Metchosin. And that was the #1 concern that we did hear from the residents who participated in the session.
Right in, right out, sorry, unless there's a massive barricade, is a bit of a fallacy, because people are people and they're going to try and turn left. So why are we here right now?
Well, we're here because it's the next step in our process of moving forward the rezoning application. We are here to say we would like a recommendation that suggests the language that we've asked for as part of the development agreement. Right. Are we taking, I guess, an engineering perspective or a planning perspective? Which one takes precedent, I guess, in the hierarchy of decision making is kind of...
Well, some poor decisions have been made in the past with projects that have left us, the community, the people who live here after the builder's long gone, with some traffic issues. So I think the council of today, right now, here now is very much alive to that. So I'm hearing that you guys would prefer to exit out the back and not build the frontage.
We prefer certainty.
Thank you. And so does the community.
Yes, and we feel that if it's that important to Colwood, that the access goes through Wood End, then we would suggest that Colwood should pursue that land dedication now to put that in place to enable a good design outcome for our site and the desired outcome from engineering and planning, rather than relying on shutting down the laneway and creating a less than desirable planning outcome for one of the first projects that represents the kind of change that you're looking for on
Okay,
Metchosin.
so I don't have an issue with the development or the numbers or the FAR or the design. But I think what you're suggesting is we, the community, purchase a swath of land at the back there to help facilitate your construction?
Well, we're actually not asking for it for our construction. We have access for our site today.
Right.
We are being asked to design for something that does not exist today, that may exist in the future.
You can see the problem, I guess, I have with some of this. I tell you what, Mr. Chair, I'll yield and give the rest of the committee a chance and maybe circle back after. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Trina?
It would be helpful to know the status of 3157. Is there anything else that staff or the applicant can tell us as to what's going on with that piece of property and why the holdup or why the resistance or whatever it is?
I'm happy to share our backstory with 3157, and perhaps staff can speak about the current status of if there is an application or not. At one point in time, both of these properties were for sale as a package, but this is going back probably 3 or 4 years ago now. When we investigated what it would take to develop 3157, we were made aware that there would be, I believe it's an infrastructure piece, I can't recall if it was Sani or Storm, that would have to be pulled down Metchosin through 3157, connected into Wood End Road, and the land dedication would have to be provided for the future roundabout of Wood End Road. The costs to undertake those offsite works were beyond what a project could bear. And so we were able to negotiate, a deal just on the 3145 Metchosin property. At this time, it's my understanding that the owner of 3157 is in discussion with the city of Colwood, understands that should the property be developed, this dedication would be required, but has not yet made a formal application to the city. I'm happy to yield to staff too to see if there's an update on that, but that's our understanding today.
Perhaps staff can provide some context there as well.
Yes, thank you for the question. So staff have had a formal pre-application meeting with the applicants. The last we heard from them was about a month ago regarding city process and city permits, etc.
Thank you. Does that satisfy your question, Trina? Or? Great. Sure. Mr. Perry, I'll turn it over to Mr. Perry here.
One of my first questions is actually mostly about like the format of the report. On a couple of tables where you compare the different zonings on the MR1 that's being proposed, some of the line items are in red text while others are in black text, but I couldn't see any description kind of outlining the markup there. So I was just mostly curious to make sure I had a firm understanding of like what the significance of it being in red meant to the zone. There's like a table 2 on my phone's being slow, page something. I'm sorry.
Thank
Page
you very
5.
much. I apologize. I should have been clearer. So the red indicates the changes from the existing R1 zone to the new MR1 zone. The black text is just showing the similar uses that already exist in the R1 zone.
Okay, thank you. With respect to the development, like I know you mentioned that the there's no additional variances are being asked for at this present moment, but I'm sure that there's some like grandfathering of the properties to the north of you in terms of like setback, because that road or strata driveway leading up to those two properties is just very much in proximity of the balconies, which would be the back of the units that you're proposing. So just wanting to make sure that we're acknowledging and cognizant of the like view down directly on top of that house next door. So that's a concern of mine. I know that the parking was also mentioned, but with 23 units, the three spaces, it'll get tight quick, because where else would the overflow go? Because normally when I see townhome complexes with the appropriate amount of guest parking, there's usually some opportunity for the 1, 2, maybe 3 cars that might overflow the guest parking at a particular time. So I didn't see much there, especially with the current proposal being like straight onto Metchosin. Like there's just nothing there. So and I don't see anything nearby that they could like walk to. So it becomes a big problem for the residents there. So, finding a way to like squeeze in one more spot, especially with the overarching issue where, I do project management, and I know all too well the desire to maintain multiple plans at one time, and then only at the moment collapse it down to one and come up with a decision. And one of the things that came to my mind in this particular scenario is likened to the Latoria and VMP, where like that north section, we had all those properties coordinate, and like we were instructed to coordinate. And while I understand that your acquisition of that land was prohibitive for an infrastructural reason, I don't see how it's going to become viable on a smaller project. So there's just certain things about this that just don't seem like it's going to come together unless there's a bit more of a widespread directive to like build that coordination at the end of the Wood End Road. So I'm kind of interested in what sort of mechanisms we have, and I don't know how it played out on the north side of Latoria of VMP, and to get those properties to coordinate, but like what is possible here, and the final piece there is like there is good opportunity there along the multiple properties that kind of make that triangular area. So there's got to be something we got to work with, because as we've discussed, I'm not seeing a great plan here that no one really thinks is great, and that's obviously a struggle.
Thank you, Council Member Perry. So you are correct that the North Latoria visioning exercise, I would say it began a decade plus ago with council identifying the fact that we had an opportunity to look at properties in a wholesome manner on a stretch of Colwood that would warrant local area planning. And so part of our 2025 budget for the year includes local area planning around Metchosin Road. One of our precursor to that exercise is the transportation, like the transportation master plan. We need that as the foundation that we will base master planning of land use on, because we believe it is the road network that is going to be the foundation of planning for higher density along that stretch on Metchosin. We would basically be transforming what is single family duplex neighborhoods into a higher density neighborhood, and that requires a road network, a comprehensive thinking of the road network. And you are not wrong that local area planning would be probably what's needed along some parts of Metchosin to make sure that there is that we are encouraging lot consolidation and coming forward with a proposal that incorporates more than one property, so that we can then accomplish the road dedication that we need to see off of the arterial and towards the back of properties. It's just, we want to facilitate a conversation for a developer and applicant that is ready to have a proposal heard today versus the ones that may come later. But the development agreement condition that we've put forward is the best way that we can continue to support a one-off application and still ensure that we will make room for the possibility of the better outcome, which would be Wooden Road continuing to extend at the rear of the properties. So this is a compromise for sure. And I know it doesn't sit well with the developer because uncertainty is not good for anybody. But it is the condition that allows the staff to continue to be supportive of the proposal before posting for an extended time until we're able to resolve the transportation management plan piece.
Thank you. So with that, I think it's clear that that neighboring property is kind of the key to success that everyone wants to see. It is extremely difficult when also considering the one sentiment provided earlier around this being one of the first stages of turning Metchosin Road into the arterial road that we want. And so for, one of the first projects to go through, stepping forward with a compromise that ultimately no one wants, it's just something that is hard to see as a success and something to necessarily boast about. So with that, I am unfortunately not seeing something here that I can endorse until we see the pieces come together that we all want to see. And I, certainly appreciate your desire to make fit what you have available to you. But right now, it's just not something I see as viable. So I yield back to Councillor Jansen.
Sorry, Councillor, are we able to ask questions back to the panel? I'm unfamiliar with the format and just want to make sure that we're following the protocol.
If there's no objection from the committee member, then yeah, it's more of an open forum to find out the information. So yeah, absolutely. As Councillor Jansen said, it's a committee of whole type format. So
Thank you.
if
And is it
Perry-
Councillor Perry? I just want to make sure I'm addressing you correctly. Sorry. I heard Councillor and I didn't want to be disrespectful. Committee member Perry, then. I'm not totally clear about what you mean by we don't have a viable application in front of us. And I'm hoping that you could explain that to me because we do have an application that's OCP consistent, has access to Metchosin Road, is delivering, as far as I can tell, all of the pieces that are required under the parking requirements. And so I'm not exactly clear where you think that this is not a viable application.
I need the mic back.
You do well.
Thanks, sir. There you go. Appreciate that and very fair points. The viability and maybe the term viability was heavy-handed and I apologize for that, but it's more along the vision of Metchosin Road and what we're trying to accomplish, city's trying to accomplish. And, even to your point, like you don't want to have to block it off later and then it's a weird frontage, right? So it's mostly speaking to the fact that it's not something that fits right at this right time. And the getting that cul-de-sac at the end of Wood End is just that particular prerequisite that I see at this particular moment. So I appreciate the question and I really appreciate the follow-up too.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. I'll go again to Councillor Jansen.
Thank you. So, I mean, I circle back, I think to Mr. Perry's point, and I think for the people in the room that, when I reread the suggested motion on the part of staff, which is the recommendation, it does build in the requirement for the rear exit to Wood End Road when it becomes viable. I prefer what staff has proposed as opposed to the language that you've proposed. So there's a lot of moving parts here, but I think I said that already, but I can appreciate a couple of things. First off, I mean, the shape of the lot is not your fault. Well, it's not my fault either, but it just is what it is. And so as our director of planning suggests that, we would prefer frontage row homes, 3-story, 4-story condo buildings along Metchosin Road eventually. You're here early and sometimes that's good. Maybe sometimes it's not, but I think I respect that and that you're doing the best you can. But I'm looking at that 3157. I went to Google Maps while you were talking and I had a look at the layout. I mean, is there, like, I count like 6 or 7 lots in between and these two properties intersect at the rear. Am I missing something?
You're
Those are the
not,
two-
no,
Okay.
Counselor Jensen. I'm in the business of acquiring land for Abstract,
Right.
and I can tell you that when the land has been cut up already
Right.
into smaller parcels, what we're doing is increasing the cost to the developer of acquiring that land.
Sure.
On both sides of our site, we've already seen subdivisions historically happen there. So we have a strata to the north with 2 single-family lots and an open space kind of green area in the middle of the two. I think it's a septic field, actually. And to the left-hand side, there's another triangular piece. It also has, I think, between 4 and 5 homes in there. Immediately to the south is a duplex, and then there's another subdivided piece before you get to 3157. So, in my experience, it will be difficult and it will take a long time probably before the densities in this area are high enough that they would support acquiring all of those pieces and doing what I imagine in your minds is more of like a master plan for that chunk of land area. Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're getting big brothered by senior levels of government because, you know, I also made a note when our planner, and I think it's on point, Kelsey, and I love hearing what Bill 44 tells us we can do or what can happen with that lot. So here I am trying to make a decision with the thought that, well, if I tell you no, you're going to go away and exercise the SSMUH policy, which will be here by the end of the year, and come back with 10 to 12
by my math.
10 to
from what we've
12
just heard, yes.
10 to 12 lots multiplied by a minimum of 4. I mean, sometimes 6 units, depending on the circumstances. So again, I'm left to make a decision on whether I can live with, what is it, 23 versus
Correct.
48. So this isn't easy.
And I want to be clear too, you know, we are not trying to be a stick in the mud, and we certainly do not want this evening to be our last touch point in the process. We are simply here to express that we think the best outcome for our site does not involve closing a strata lane in the future. That's it.
I got you.
We would very much like to move forward with this. And I think regardless of which development language you ask us to commit to, we will go away and we will try to accommodate that. We will continue our discussions with the neighbor at 3157 to see if there's an opportunity to get a temporary access so that we can design to the street the way that we would like to. We're just saying that we don't like that language about having to close it should we be unable to secure an access through Wood End prior to the
What
site being
happens then?
constructed.
Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah.
So,
But I want to be clear, we absolutely want to find the path forward here. We don't want this project to die on the vine, so to speak.
yeah. I see. I'll go to staff.
Yeah, maybe I will just clarify. So if you read our development agreement condition, we're not making a requirement that a straddle access lane be closed. We're merely asking for rear lane access to be enabled, whether it is this current property owner or if the property transfer hands to a different developer or a different future proponent. Lots happens between a rezoning and a building permit.
Right.
And so what we are trying to do is to secure an outcome that at some point throughout this process, there will be a building permit submission. And at that time, we want to see a design that enables rear access for this lot. And at that time, it could be in a year and a half from now when our TMP is finalized and we have the mandate to pursue road dedication at the back to extend Wood End. And it could be, yes, we can explore options available to us. depending on where the extension of Wooden sits in a priority, in a number of priorities for council to explore purchasing of lands, that is a different conversation for another time on a number of priorities.
Gotcha.
So there's lots to be determined, and we believe that we've crafted a development agreement condition with support from our solicitor to enable the most flexibility. Uncertainty, absolutely, but with the most flexibility. So we're not predicating an outcome of closing off an access. It's hopefully we'll find ourselves at a place and point where we can pursue single access through the rear
Thank you.
when it all comes together.
So, as mentioned, again, these decisions aren't easy, and I respect the fact that you're here and you're, some developers don't even show up and they leave it to one of their staff members. So I appreciate the fact that you're here. And again, for me, I think for the committee and for Mr. Perry, again, the difficulty I have is, the developer and the property owner has options, and those options may be less desirable to the community than what's being proposed here. So I'm prepared to support the recommendation, the staff recommendation, not the wording that you have, to move this along, recognizing that this is early in the process and that there's a lot of dialogue yet to be had. So we're not just here to beat up on you, I guess is the point there, me specifically.
We would be happy to move forward tonight with a recommendation. And as I said, we will continue to work in earnest to try to
Appreciate that.
secure that.
I appreciate that. And I recognize and I value the fact that, or I respect the fact that it's abstract and it's not BC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I appreciate that. I'll yield, Mr. Chair. I'm ready with a motion when you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. That you make that motion in a moment. I'll just speak briefly. I think for me, the optimal scenario, if I'm you, and I dare say that, would be a scenario whereby you can reorient the westward building on Metchosin and potentially open up, an additional unit, create a more attractive kind of living experience for your clients. And I opened the welcome to you by saying, I appreciate the spirit of partnership that you've shown with the city, and that Abstract brings a really strong reputation. And I think, I believe you when you say you want to deliver the best quality project there. I think the best quality project would look different were you coming forward in potentially 6 months or however long it takes for 3157 Metchosin to get to where they get to. So I'll support Councillor Jansen in moving that motion, because I know time is money as well. I've said that before. We don't want to send you away and, as you said, have a really good project die on the vine over something that really isn't in its final form yet. I also don't want to see a scenario where you've, build it designed to, exit and enter off Metchosin and place bollards there eventually. That's not your style. Nobody wants to see that. But I do think, and I speak as a council representative in this approach, is that we've browbeat staff a fair bit over, we don't want entry and exit points off arterial routes anymore. Colwood was designed as this sleepy suburb, and our road system is not built to accommodate the traffic volumes that we're going to are seeing today. And the more we fail to plan for the future, the less strategic view we take, the more difficult it's going to become. We're already fixing past mistakes time and time again. So if we can adopt that strategic view, which I think staff is trying to do here, I support that. As you said, it's OCP compliant. It's a great project. I think we'll find a happy middle ground somewhere between now and the next stages. So I'll leave it to Councillor Jansen to make that motion here, and we can get things. So Councillor Jansen is moving the staff recommendation. I will call the vote. Any opposed? Seeing none, that's unanimous. So thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to come out.
Thank you for your time this evening. Yes, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you, everybody. We will now move forward to item 5.4. Richard will be taking us through the rezoning application for 221 Goldfinch Road. Oh, sorry. No, look at that. I jumped right to the end, everybody. Fooled you. There's a few folks wanting to hear about Windthrop that collectively went, what are you doing here? No, sorry. Item 5.3, Kelsey gets to keep on going here with 546 Windthrop Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. So the applicant is proposing to rezone from the A1 to a new hillside attached housing or HAH1 zone to enable a 34-unit townhouse development. The ultimate unit count will be determined at the time of development permit. The property is a 2-acre lot with an existing single-family dwelling with a few accessory buildings with a forested area in the rear. It is zoned Rural 1 and is designated as Neighborhood Hillside and Shoreline, which permits up to a 1.2 FAR. The Neighborhood Hillside and Shoreline designation envisions ground-oriented multi-unit residential uses, including duplexes and townhomes. It also supports applying an alternative infrastructure standard in support of site adaptive planning and expects to maintain 40% of the site as open space. The new HAH1 zone enables the density and site adaptive expectations as part of the designation specifically for townhouses and duplexes. It is expected all site adaptive townhouses will rezone to HAH1 in the future. The setbacks outlined in the Hillside OCP design guidelines are embedded into the new zone to ensure environmental protection. The applicant and staff undertook a site adaptive planning approach to the site plan. Based on the tree management plan, it appeared more trees could be protected if Block 7 was reoriented or split. While it was determined that more trees may be protected, it would remove more significant and healthy trees. A Section 219 tree preservation covenant is proposed along the west and north side to ensure tree protection. The area is still usable to residents. The intention is to limit tree removal. The applicant has achieved 39% open space between the tree protection area, which includes a natural play element and picnic area, general landscaping, and private backyards. Road dedication is not required as part of this application, as Windthrop Road fronting this property already provides a 20-meter right-of-way. The development agreement proposes an SRW along the south property line to create a meandering trail on and off private property to protect significant trees as seen in red above. A blanket SRW has also been negotiated along the western property line for public access if and when the city sees a need to connect to lands beyond and or to Havenwood Park in the future. A development notification sign was posted on site and postcards will be sent to these properties within 100 meters of the site advertising bylaw readings, which is currently scheduled for June 23rd. The applicant also hosted a neighborhood engagement and is appended to the staff report. Committee may wish to recommend the staff recommendation or any of the other options above. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. The applicant is also here and has a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. Any questions at this point, or would you prefer the applicant presentation? I'm seeing nods on applicant presentation, so Rachel, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Committee. My name is Rachel Sansom. I'm the agent for the owners of 546 Windthrop Road. Got that backwards already. And also joined tonight by David McGrath from WA Architecture, who did the site planning and design for this project. I won't repeat what Kelsey said in her excellent staff report, but again, there's our location plan on Windthrop Road, just to the west of Wishart Road. Existing conditions, there's 2 dwellings on the property as well as a large workshop. It's been impacted by the residential uses, and you can see it's also been used for a bit of camper storage on the west-hand side. That's a hydrant in the frontage, and you can also see existing trees in the frontage that we'll refer to a little bit later. So adjacent land uses, of course, we're surrounded by the larger developments of Royal Bay, Olympic View, and the future Latoria multifamily proposal, as well as Latoria Walk to the west, and several recently approved townhouse projects to the west off Wishart that back onto Delora. So in summary, we're proposing a new zone. Thank you, staff, for a nice new zone we get to test out. And approximately 34 3-story, 2- and 3-bedroom family homes. We're proposing 2 parking spaces per unit, as well as the maximum of 3 visitor parking spaces as per your bylaws. We worked really hard with staff and our consulting team, which included J.E. Anderson and Telmac arborists, as well as Castigated Biological, to determine where on site we would have the least amount of impact. Again, the green you can see on this plan is actually the outdoor spaces for these units. And I believe that many of them have rooftop patios to really maximize the living space, but minimize the impact on the land. We are sharing the amenity spaces of an open space playground and some seating areas throughout the wooded area. So that'll have a really gentle impact on the preserved green space, and that we would have, soft safe trails, natural playgrounds and benches. And this would be for the use and enjoyment of the residents. But as Kelsey noted, we also anticipate a right-of-way, if needed, to access the property to the west if it develops to create some neighborhood connectivity. We did do public consultation last December, and this site is fully serviced by Colwood Sanitary Sewer, CRD Water for domestic and fire, and then the sewer will be extended from Delora Drive to the west. Stormwater will be managed on site. We have prepared a stormwater management plan, which we submitted to the engineering department. Because this slopes to the south, there's certainly some neighbors had concerns about how stormwater would be managed. So what they're proposing is some in-ground galleries that will retain and detain water to pre-development flows. So there'll be no increase in nuisance from this development to the neighborhood. And I will let David chime in. I believe he's online virtually to talk a little bit about the form and character of these proposed new townhouses. Are you there, David? Well, hopefully he's here somewhere. Look at how he sounds.
Can everyone hear me?
There he is.
Okay, I was talking there without anyone hearing me, still on mute. Thank you. Good evening, Councillor Ward and committee members. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about this project. I was wondering that first, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to just touch base on how we organized the site. Thank you very much. So one of the things that we did, and we had a quite a comprehensive arborist report that inventoried all the trees, and within that inventory, we were given good conditions, fair to good conditions, a fair, and then poor conditions. And what I did as setting this up is use the existing grading to try to minimize the amount of retaining that we would need, and also to maximize the conservation of viable trees within that area. And so this is what the resultant is we got close to, I believe, 40%, 39% of green space, and this includes the green space for personal use within the units themselves. Block 5, as you see, we don't have the green space, but we're providing full rooftop access and rooftop open space for them as well. One of the things that we looked at is, I know that it's quite important to get that activation on the road. So along the front of the road, we did push off block 1 and block 2 and have designed it. And that's the image that you see at the beginning of the elevation. With that, what we've done is we've made sure to keep there is a clump of trees on the south west corner on municipal land, and whether we do, if there is proposal of expanding this road at some point, maybe that goes away, but we still wanted to make sure that we had the street frontage in there. So block 1 and 2 have been designed so that it looks like it has a frontage, like that's where you enter to, but really it is the majority of, well, you order pizza or whatever, it's going into the community itself. We oriented all the other ones to maximize, obviously, the density within the space, but also to maintain the amount of green space that we do have. And we looked at not invasive, so we wouldn't be cutting down trees in order to make these spaces, but have the usable open spaces and the usable playground areas within the setting of the existing trees. within those areas. We're having, what we're providing here is also family units. So there's, as Rachel had indicated, 3-bedroom units, 2-bedroom units, but they range from 1,400 square feet to 2,000 square feet, each housing a double car garage, and then our three visitor parking spaces evenly, or tried to evenly spaced throughout, as well as the area that you see with mail. And keeping within that area, you see that we could have put another unit there, but there is a maple tree within that area, which I think we're going to try to save. And I think it's a great asset to this development. I know that there was concerns about traffic into this area. 34 units and townhome units. We're gone through the traffic reports, and that's what they do for a living. So they understand the impacts on this, and the numbers. I believe that once it becomes public domain, that the neighbors can get access to that report for them. The form and character, which we're still working out, is we wanted to have a very modern ability for us to get those rooftop decks on top, but also be a refreshing aesthetic going through there that has connectivity to the rest of the through the existing driveway access that is right now, but also between the buildings as well. With that, I'll hand it over back to Rachel, but thank you very much for your time. And I will be present to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, David. Yeah, speaking to the traffic report, I do believe it's actually in the agenda package. And they do note that in the morning peak hour, which is around 8 o'clock in the morning, it's 14 cars in that hour. And in the evening peak hour, which is around 5 o'clock, they're anticipating 17 cars per hour. So those aren't the total cars per day. They measure the impact in those peak hours, and that's in accordance with the International Traffic Engineer Standard, which all traffic engineers reference in their TIAs, which are also prescribed by your wonderful engineering staff in their terms of reference for the traffic reports for various sizes of development. So we do follow those guidelines. A few more views of the buildings as they appear from Windthrop. And you'll notice here on our grading plan, we did try our level best to work with the existing grades in order to minimize the amount of excavation, certainly for the impact, but also for the cost. But as you can see, we do have to, because we have those roads coming perpendicular, you have to be able to make that corner. So the grades have to be manipulated in order to turn those corners safely, not only for the residents, but also for emergency vehicles. So we did test this with our engineers to ensure that your firefighting apparatus can get in and out safely from this site. I believe we'll also have a fire hydrant on this site, and they'll be sprinklered in accordance with your bylaws. So again, our layout, approximately 25 or 29% is the preserved green space, and plus the additional 10 of those open space playgrounds. This green space does include those private rear yards and all the green spaces in and around the buildings. We will have a tree protection covenant, so that means we can't remove or impact any trees unless it's endorsed by our project arborist and staff, of course. And tree replacement, I believe, is currently 2-to-1 or cash in lieu. And we do have our future trail connection. Of course, we'll try to get to zero carbon construction in accordance with Colwood bylaws, electric heat pumps for reduced fossil fuel, long-lasting, low-maintenance cladding, high efficiency windows. We'll have those level 2 EV chargers in each garage, working with permeable patio pavers to limit the amount of runoff, and also be solar ready. We'll of course have bike storage in each garage, Energy Star appliances, and the landscaping will be native and pollinator friendly as much as possible. Certainly you want to have native compatible species, also low maintenance for irrigation, pest control, etc. The improvements on Windthrop Road, at this point, we're going to be working in and around these trees with a trail as opposed to a hardscape sidewalk. And this is in several discussions with staff, but we will be providing cash in lieu should Colwood want to change this to a concrete sidewalk in the future. So we'll be providing a short-term solution, but depending on the future Windthrop Road, Colwood will still have the money to build that sidewalk when the time comes. But we will be providing the other amenities as far as streetlights and stormwater management in that frontage. We did have a consultation meeting in December, and forgive me, I don't know if you guys were able to attend. Yes, I think you were there. I mailed these out right before the mail strike at Christmas, and I woke up one night and thought, oh no, notices didn't go out. So I had to hand deliver them. So I hope everybody got some. We did have a very nice day. We were on site. Todd Mahovlich and I, he's the realtor on this project, hung out and met the neighbors, had good discussions about their concerns. Certainly traffic safety was the #1 concern, as well as pedestrian safety for the trail and future sidewalk on Windthrop hopefully will help mitigate some of that. Extending sewers to the site, other neighbors were also interested in sewer connections. So perhaps as we go along the way, we can step out to them. Visitor parking, we are providing parking per bylaw. Certainly people will probably wish we had more, but I understand that there's a limit to the amount of parking. So we're trying to encourage alternative forms of transportation. As I noted, stormwater management will be managed on site, and our green space and tree preservation, we did have neighbors concerned about the line of trees at the back that we've done our best to preserve. Thank you very much. We're here for your questions.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Appreciate it. I will go to the first question asker here, which is Mr. Perry.
Thank you. One of the things I'd like to understand before digging into the like agenda item request here, looking at the map of nearby developments, I know that there's another parcel that's a little further down, like Windthrop on the corner of Delora, that's going through the process of redevelopment. And there were comments about, you know, what sort of transition from like residential into higher density is appropriate. So one of the questions that I have for the city right now is, in that neighboring area, you know, I spoke to the one that I am aware of and been privy to, but are there other developments happening in that particular area, just to give a bit of context as to like how that area is growing?
So we have had predominantly single family subdivisions of single family homes or bare land strata that is creating small lot single family homes around those properties, including, I believe, the proposal that we have at 508. So we have a rezoning application at 508, and it is comprised of small lot, bare land strata, single family homes. I think one important aspect to keep in mind is this provincial legislation to accommodate and enable small-scale housing. The minimum height starts at 3 stories. So I think our perception or our historically, we understand compatibility with single-family lots to be same height, same look, same aesthetic. And I think we are being encouraged to consider compatibility as similar in scale, but not necessarily equal in height or the intensity of the land. So the minimum lot area that we are asked to consider is quite small compared to our existing neighborhoods. And as I said, the minimum height, 3 stories that should be given to any lot that is connected to sewer or in proximity to sewer, 3 stories with a minimum entitlement of 4 units, 4 to 6 units if you are connected to sewer. We already enabled 3 units on single family lots, because in Colwood you can have a single family, an accessory dwelling unit, and a suite. So all of these single family homes are effectively have the latent potential for 3 households, and the provincial mandate is for us to enable 4 to 6 on each of the single family homes starting at the 3-story. So it is pushing us to make consideration for what is forming character, what is retaining and respecting the existing established neighborhoods. Is pushing us to a different way of thinking of a neighborhood and taking us to the next, I would say, the next step of densification that may not be comfortable, but it is certainly the new norm.
Thank you. As for the development itself, I think there's a lot of good things going for it. Namely the stormwater management. That was one thing that was a topic of the neighboring property when it came in front of Colwood Committee at some point last year. I can't remember exactly when. Also the mix of units, like seeing predominantly 3-bedroom is really nice. The rooftop usable space and actually leveraging the roof for something usable. That's something that everyone's going to be really happy to see. And the local like connectivity to Havenwood Park and other amenities nearby makes for a stronger argument for the bicycle and the walkability. But that being said, the on-site green space is also a really nice large dedication, which I appreciate. So I just wanted to call out some of the things that are really good about this particular plan. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I see Councillor Jansen.
Thank you, Mr. Perry, for going first for a change, as opposed to me. But there's a lot here, and I appreciate the presentation from staff and Ms. Sansom as well. And I think there is a lot to chew on here. And Kelsey, we didn't do it this time, but I got my calculator out, and 8,111 meter parcel. I believe you said 300 meters squared for, thank you. So I was right. That adds up to 27 subdivided lots multiplied by 4 adds up to 108 units. So for the public to understand what it is we're up against with Bill C-44, Bill C-47, now Bill 14, Bill 15, and Bill 7, for which you can all thank your MLAs, we're up against a wall. So the decision I have to make is, do I agree with the proposition here that we can live with 23 units in that stretch? Because the fallback, 34, sorry, 23 was the last one, my mistake, but the downside to this, we say no, they go away, they come in with a subdivision application to break that up into 27 stratified lots or freehold, what have you, and then each person that buys one of those lots can put up a 4-plex, maybe a 6-plex, giving the conditions because the sewer goes up the road, is 108 units. And that to me is not acceptable. So this is the calculus that we're left with here sitting at this committee table, which by extension goes forward to council. So that's always in the back of my mind, and that's what just the new reality. And I take no position on that other than I will make sure that my decisions are consistent with the law. These bills are just the new reality for us. As our director of planning has indicated, this is it's a new reality in planning. So now, having said all that, there's a lot to chew on here, and I think that some efforts have been taken to preserve trees, to preserve green space. To be fair to the neighborhood, there is density that's going in the neighborhood that has gone in the neighborhood with the extension of Delora and the I think it's 11 or 12 homes that are up the Delora. And yes, this committee talked about 508. I think it was sent back from the initial concept, but I'm quite sure it'll be back again. So 508 is going to be soon be before us, I'm quite sure. And then you have the Wishart development further up Delora again, which I think is 30 or 40 townhomes. So that is a reality for that neighborhood, and I get it. I understand that it's a change, but we have lost a lot of control. So whereby this proposition, our staff have the ability to negotiate some needs and wants for the community and to help preserve green space versus losing all control. and the zoning being imposed upon us. So that's the reality. Now, having said that, I've been through this quite a bit, Rachel, and I did look for, I know this is prime snake country. And I know how much you like talking about the fork-tailed snake, and I see that it's mentioned in the ecological or the report there that it's not prime location for the snake, as far as I understand.
Thank you, Councillor Jensen. We are told that it's habitat that might be suitable for the sharp-tailed snake,
Right.
but we haven't seen them. Apparently they're across the road, but they're not here. So I believe at 508, which was also my file, we were saving a rock for them. And they also have a little path just for them.
Right.
So they've been accommodated in the
But there
neighborhood.
is that rock.
In case they show up, they've got
Yeah.
somewhere to go.
For the cometh of the snake, yes, the one that nobody's ever seen before, but gets mentioned in every report in that neighborhood.
Well, you never know. We want to be prepared.
I really don't have anything more, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I'll yield.
Great, thank you. Seeing no other questions, then I'll just briefly address it. I think along the lines of what Councillor Jansen was saying, I think if this was in front of me a couple of years ago, I'd be very inclined to say with some hesitation that I just don't know if it's right for the area. You know, I've walked up, you know, that road and wandered through, you know, both looking at that previous property that's just down from it. And Rachel, you're familiar with that. And it's a nice, quiet neighborhood. And I see the folks that are here this evening, excuse me, that live there. And yeah, I'm envious. I live in a townhouse, so you've got a great spot. It really is a nice neighborhood. And it's emblematic of a lot of neighborhoods in Colwood that are going to face this push for infill with Bill 44 and just the growth that's happening across our region. So, you know, I hear your concerns, you know, those that are here, and frankly, people from across Colwood in every neighborhood that's going to face this kind of pinch. By the same token, though, I know that we are not in a position to just simply say no. We've tried that, and we've got the letter from Ravi Kalon telling us you cannot do that, or we will be replaced with a housing advisor that will override anybody's concerns. So, you know, that's the rock and hard place that we're between. So I think all we can do, I think, as a sympathetic council, a council of neighbors and fellow taxpayers and residents, is to try to shape things the best we can, you know, extract the most from each project, you know, and partner with the development community to say, hey, you know, be considerate of the neighborhoods you're going into and do the best you can. So, you know, in this case, I like it. I think the project, I say I like it in isolation when I say that the project looks nice. You know, architecturally, it's well designed. If I were living there, I'd like my rooftop deck. If I'm living across the street, the rooftop deck looks kind of like a fourth story to me, right? So, yeah, and there's, for the benefit of those listening, a comment from the gallery here was that, you know, there'd be noise, and there would be, there'd be some concerns there. I think there's no way that you can mitigate completely the impact of 34 homes onto a lot where previously, you know, far less existed. My main concern really, though, knowing full well that I'll take 34 homes there with some preservation of green space over 60, 70, 80, maximum 108. I say be careful what you wish for, because we could say no. And when I say we say no, I mean, it'll go to council. Council could say no. But something will be built there. The question becomes, what is it? And I think what we have before us now is what we need to work with. So my one concern, as I said, somebody who lives in a townhome development, I'd be concerned for your street in terms of parking. I know, Rachel, your project has 3 parking stalls on site. That's what you're asked to do. I get it. If I'm not mistaken, looking at these townhomes, the parking provided is all garage space. There's no driveways. So again, that complies with the Colwood standard, but my lived experience in a townhome complex in this area is that there's a lot of people with full-size trucks, overheight vehicles, other plans for their garage. There will be spillover. 3 spots is not enough. So you're going to see vehicles parked on the street. And I think that's more a comment to us, I think, at Colwood, that maybe when it comes to townhome developments, we know they're going to be coming fast and furious. We need to maybe get our collective heads together and go, what can we do on parking? And because I'm not a big proponent of turning down housing for not enough parking. You know, we want to move people out of cars and so on, but we have to accept the reality that's there before us as well. So I'll admit that parking concerns me a little bit. I think you're going to see vehicles, you know, F-150s and things that don't fit that are going to be parked on the street. I had made notes here, and I think Councillor Jansen spoke in great granular detail to it, that what's the outcome if the application is denied? Again, be careful what you wish for. And, you know, I can share your sentiments and be sympathetic, but if we turn it down, don't advance it along, what does that bode for you in a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when something far different and far larger takes its place? So I breathed a sigh of relief when next door to me, one building went in instead of 3 that they were planning on doing a much larger height. So is it what I wanted? No, but was it the best of what was going to potentially happen? Yes. So long story short, I mean, my view on this is that we will need to advance it to council. I think there's some thoughts there around parking that I'd like to see us get creative on, and I propose to you, Rachel, as the, you know, spokesperson for the applicant, or as the applicant, to say, okay, is there anything else you can do there to address that? Because I really see that as where the most impact will be on the good folks that live along there today. And I can see you want to respond to that, so please go ahead.
If I may,
Yeah, no, please do.
Chair,
Thank you.
I believe we originally proposed 6 visitor parking stalls, but they were more than the bylaw allowed. So we can work with staff to see how we can put those back, because there certainly was space for them.
Okay, thank you. And maybe just feedback for staff. We'll take a look at that. I don't need a response on it. I think we can have a look, because it will go before council, just for the folks that are here. I'm assuming so anyway. And when it does, that's something that we can take a look at that time. Anything we can do to help sort of mitigate what the impact might be. I see Councillor Jansen for a second time. I'll give you the floor here.
I'll let someone else make the motion this time, but I did have a question for our planning staff. I just noticed that the paragraph about delayed clearing of lands was included in the previous, but I don't see it in this one. I mean, is that a requirement regardless of whether it's specified here or?
Yes, thank you for the question. So with the adoption of the new environmental OCP guidelines, that is now an OCP policy. It does need to be embedded in a development agreement.
Okay, I get it. So we mentioned it in the last one, but not this one. So that's the only thing I noticed. Thank you. I'll yield and let someone else make the motion.
Sure, I'll make the motion in a moment. I actually realized I had one more question just for potentially for staff. There was a note, and Rachel spoke to it, I think, as well, that speaking of sewer connectivity, you know, I believe the wording was if Colwood permits. And so I guess I'm wondering 2 questions. You know, has there been an interest expressed from residents on Windthrop to connect to sewer? And B, you know, what that entails when we say if Colwood permits?
Thank you for the question. I'm not today aware of any other residents on Windthrop, but usually when a project like this comes forward, the residents learn of it and then come forward. And it's probably just more the nature of the wording. We do have to permit it, so it's really just that we wouldn't really turn them away. It would be a work with a developer. There's often opportunity for cost sharing, and it's certainly cheaper to provide a stub while the main's going in. So we're more than happy to work with any residents that are interested in connecting to sewer. I think the extension's about 140 meters. It has to go to the far end of their property line, even if their stub is closer. So that opens up quite a few properties to be able to connect to sewer.
Thank you. Yeah, and that interested me, because I think any time, and we saw that off one of the developments on Souk Road, if we can bring what is potentially an amenity to, you know, a homeowner that's there today, it doesn't change what's happening, but it lessens the impact somewhat if it provides a service that doesn't exist in the moment. So thank you for that, Josh. I believe there was another question, or no? No. Okay. So I'll just make the motion at this point to move the staff recommendation to send it forward to council. I'll call the question. All those opposed? Okay, so unanimous. And for those in the gallery, that means it just will go forward to the regular council agenda, you know, where the same information will be shared with full council, and then that's where the decision making would actually happen at that point. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. With that, we will move on to the previously stated erroneously item 5.4. Richard, who's been waiting patiently to bring forward the rezoning application of 221 Goldfinch Road.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. So I'll take you through this presentation highlighting the rezoning application at 221 Goldfinch Road. If we get it up on screen. Yeah. Okay, so 221 Goldfinch Road. Okay, so the application seeks to rezone the property from R1 single family and duplex zoning to RM7 medium density residential. So the application is specifically to propose 4 duplex style townhouse units, each with a secondary suite. The plans as proposed currently foresee a lot coverage of 36.5% with an FAR of 0.85 in a 2.5 story to 3 story format. Site context. So the lot for the development is located on Goldfinch Road in close proximity to the intersection of Lagoon Road. The existing development consists of a single family home on a large triangular shaped lot. A large portion of the lot fronts onto Goldfinch Road and offers an opportunity with a lot of frontage. The official community plan. So the lands are designated neighborhood and hillside shoreline. So the intent of this designation to seek to enable gentle infill that maintains the existing character of the neighborhood while expanding housing options for diverse household needs. Seeking this through ground-oriented residential uses, duplexes and townhouses for density of up to 1.2 FAR. For those in the crowd, FAR is floor area ratio. Yeah. So the zoning, staff worked with the applicants to guide the development to fit within the medium density RM7 zone. We were taking general guidance from Bill 44 regulations in working towards that. So this designation supports ground-oriented multi-unit residential development, including duplexes and townhouses, which fosters gentle infill in alignment with OCP policies. The zoning regulations include a floor area ratio of 1, minimum of 10% usable open space, 2.5 to 3 story walk-up built form, and setbacks are designated to maintain appropriate separation from neighboring properties. A note here that all required parking will be provided on site. So road dedication. In consideration of the development, the city is requiring a 2-meter municipal road dedication along the frontage of Goldfinch prior to adoption of the rezoning. Other frontage improvements will be considered at the time of building permitting, but we can expect full build out, whether that's sidewalk and other improvements along there. Communication. So as part of the application process, the application has posted signage on the property notifying nearby residents of the application. The applicant also had submitted their public consultation summary. Notifications will be mailed out to residents within 100 meters of the property prior to giving the bylaw readings, and ads will be placed in the newspaper, and notices will be given on our website as well. So the committee may wish to consider the staff recommendation or choose one of the other options shown on screen. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any of your questions, and the applicants are also here to speak to their development proposal. Thank you.
Let's hear from the applicant and then we'll go to questions. Is there a presentation, sorry, or just speaking to? Okay, sorry, my mistake. Okay, well, I'll turn it over to the committee for questions. I don't see anyone queued up. Okay. Okay, Mr. Perry. Saves us.
Going first, and then I stall, and everyone's like, "Oh, I guess no one wants to go." So one of the questions that came forward, and was actually one of the things that came to my mind when reviewing this, what was mentioned was like there's ditches along there, and the one question that I had is like connection to a sewer and storm. I don't know, or rather, I do know that along that sort of eastern area of Metchosin down to the lagoon, like there isn't as much sewer, if I'm not mistaken. So I was just curious if there's sewer connectivity along Goldfinch.
Oh, sorry, could I just get you to press the button at the bottom and there you are. Thank you.
There's a sewer at the 205 Goldfinch. It was brought up from the bottom of Goldfinch up to that property. So I imagine that when we develop, we'd have to bring it up.
Right, okay. And in terms of managing stormwater, knowing that it's currently serviced by a ditch, do you plan improvements in that space?
Yes, we would be open to that. I imagine that that's going to be something discussed at the development permit stage.
Okay, fair. And then when it comes to parking, one thing that I wanted to double check, like now that like suites are involved, I know that the OCP calls for a little additional parking, but knowing that the art center just down the road has an open parking lot and suites usually introduce roughly twice as much parking, not just like the additional spot that's usually allocated. I am now, like in this particular instance, I really do see parking as a big issue with how much is on site and then just what's available nearby that would be impactful to the Arts and Culture Center that's just down the road. So if there's a possibility to increase that just to accommodate what a suite would normally bring to that area, when coupled with it being such a hilly area that like walking and biking just becomes far less viable and not something you can reasonably ask of a resident of that area. So cars and trucks will become more prevalent.
Yes, and I understand that we maximized as much of the parking there that was available to us. So there's a garage as well as a driveway there. Anything further, I think would require probably a variance, and we were trying to avoid variances.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Any questions from either of the other committee members? I see Councillor Jansen.
Not really a question, Mr. Sahota, but as I recall, you had a couple of houses just up the road there on Lagoon, and I thought they finished off quite nicely, and the sidewalk that was built along adjacent as well. So I mean,
That's right. I built two houses on Hockering at 3310 and 3304. We added sidewalks there, bike lanes, street lights at the time, and the culvert, I guess, ditch. It ended up being a rain garden there. So we made some pretty significant improvements there. This is a different kind of development. Those are more custom homes, higher end homes. Our vision for this is smaller. We're trying to go smaller and attract families, maybe seniors that are downsizing or young professionals. So we're trying to make this affordable, and that's really what our vision is, to go a little bit smaller. We didn't want to go big. We had the option of one large building or several smaller lots, and we didn't feel that that was in keeping with the neighborhood. And just listening to the conversation tonight, our goal really was to make affordable homes and something that was in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. So it wasn't a modern home. It was peaked homes and as small as possible.
yeah. Well, welcome back to Colwood, I guess.
Thank you. It's been a while, but now I'm back.
Great, thank you. Seeing no other questions, just looking to the table for a motion. Anyone looking to put one forward? See Mr. Perry. There you are.
This is more just open discussion, but like I'm trying to entertain accommodating the parking, because I've personally seen when there is a parking lot nearby and suites are involved, that is known to go sideways. You know, if you build it, they will come, and if there's an open lot nearby that's not enforced, I think there's going to be problems. So I wanted to understand here at the table what sort of appetite we have for adjusting our recommendation to request an additional spot per block. There's 2 blocks here, so adding one more there to hopefully offset the issues that I believe will happen in that area based on some of the geographic and other you know, business entities that are nearby.
Okay, I'll see Councillor Jansen here with a response.
Yeah, certainly don't have a lot of answers. Thank you, Mr. Perry. And I think if we are freewheeling here, firstly, I think the city can carry our own water. I mean, if it becomes problematic, we could put a gate across our property at the bottom of Goldfinch there. I mean, I think that's manageable. But I don't see it really specified here. Can staff sort of break it down for us, what the parking standard or the expectation is, what's required? Is there, how many visitor spots, that kind of stuff? So I don't really see it spelled out here. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll recognize Jasmine here.
Yeah, so the previous application was located at the very edge of a neighborhood center. So the La Toria and Veterans Memorial Neighborhood Center. And because it's within that 800-meter radius, it falls within a reduced parking. And I know it doesn't actually make a lot of sense. I was actually surprised to see that it actually falls within that radius, but it does. And so that's why we have a maximum that the bylaw sets a maximum, but we'll be happy to explore this with council. And if there's a desire to go above the maximum, as silly as it may sound, we may have to do a development variance permit to allow them to exceed what the current bylaw requires. In this particular case, I don't believe this is a neighborhood center, so it would be subject to the parking requirements of any other property in Colwood. And I'll let Richard elaborate on the details.
So the bylaw requires two per duplex unit plus one for the suite. So each unit is accommodating three parking spaces, each strata unit. So the 4 real estate entities would have 3 spots.
Does it require visitor or commercial or anything like that?
It doesn't meet the threshold to require that.
Interesting.
And there's also design guidelines, there's also design guidelines as to how much green space is supposed to be. So the more you take parking, the less the green space.
Yes.
Sorry, if I could just go to Josh, who I believe has some insight.
Thank you, Chair. So that's all the on-site parking requirements. For off-site. We do have our cross-section detailed for local street, and there is scallop parking. So that's detailed inside of our cross-section, which will be frontage improvements. And we do have the luxury of quite a long frontage here.
Right.
So one option committee could look at is, I guess, an emphasis on maximizing scallop parking. We don't have a prescribed ratio. We have our hierarchy of, we want to get trees, we want to get parking, we want to get all these amenities. So if there was a desire to seek a higher percentage of, or a hierarchy of parking in this area, we may lose a couple trees, or however committee may seek to put that recommendation to council, but that's on the table as well.
Thank you. Would that require an amendment? Would you prefer an amendment to what's before us, or is that going to happen organically?
Yeah, maybe I should have clarified that through the chair again. We do feel that we take the neighborhood into account and look at those things. I would only offer that if you wanted to emphasize that more so, or you felt that staff weren't going to do that, or whatever, you could offer that further direction. But no, that is exactly what staff seek to do when we implement these cross sections is
Thank you.
look at the neighborhood, look at the fit and feel, and come up with the best solution possible.
I don't want to complicate things, but if we need to apply an amendment, you can circle back, Mr. Chair.
Great.
I'll yield.
Thank you. I'll go to Trina here.
So my question is, if we were surprised by the minimum requirement for like the minimum that was set for parking on this property, the lot across the street, I believe, right across from where this is being developed, is under the Ocean Grove plan still, the Two Waters plan. I'm not sure what we're calling it these days. So it was done back in 2018 or whatever. Are we going to be surprised with the parking that's going to be limited there? Are we going to get more street parking, from that development as well on Goldfinch, or will, have other provisions been made under That, I guess it's a, is it an area plan or sub-area plan, whatever that is?
So Ocean Grove, uh, so the local area plan for Ocean Grove is guiding the master planning of the big elements. The parking bylaw applies to the city of Colwood, and it's only in neighborhood centers where the city center kind of around Colwood corners and the neighborhood hubs where it gets reduced. So in Ocean Grove, we'll still see the same parking rates as anywhere else in Colwood for townhomes or apartments or whatever the land use they end up constructing. As far as the offsite works along Goldfinch Road for Ocean Grove, I will maybe leave it with Joshua.
It'd be the same on Goldfinch specifically, but they also front Lagoon, Heather Bell. So there's a lot there, a couple different cross sections, but all of which I think Lagoon may not, but all the rest would have the off street or on street off site parking.
Okay.
So
Thank
that
you
same
for that.
balance struck.
Thanks for that clarification. So then we can limit our sort of decision just based on this property, not taking the other property into consideration. Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I think really for the benefit of the public, the area of Colwood most impacted in terms of parking, it would be the transit-oriented zone, which is really far away from here up in the Colwood Corners kind of rec center area where, you know, conceivably we'll be able to see large-scale, high-density projects built with no parking required whatsoever, but a very different piece of Bill 44 that applies well, and a few other bills that apply up there. In this particular case, the only question I had really, this is what's before us today, but under the small scale multi-unit housing rules that are coming or land use bylaw that we're anticipating, conceivably, this would be allowed regardless. Am I right or wrong on that?
Right, so it's a roughly just under 1,300 square meter lot, so you're looking at 4 times 4, so 16 units on this property. Yeah, so this comes under what that would be.
Yeah, and I think it was an honest question, but I think again, we hear that, you know, I believe Mr. Soda has made an effort to build something that is to scale that, you know, while it's not a single family home on that property, which is what neighbors would prefer, the alternative could be far different. In many ways, I laud those coming before us today, bringing developments in an attempt to fit them into the community a little bit more than, you know, those who might be waiting down the road. We could see some very different things where, you know, they won't be coming before anybody. They'll just get built and, you know, you'll have to accept it. So with that, my belief is that I don't believe we need an amendment to address parking. I appreciate the thought on it, Councillor Jansen and Mr. Perry. I believe staff has heard that comment, and of course, the two of us would be at council to carry that thought forward, just to remind, and it's in the minutes. So I'll just make the motion to go with the staff recommendation at this time, and I'll call the question. All those opposed? Seeing none, it's unanimous. We'll move that, and then we will go to, let me check my numbers so I don't get it wrong. Oh, look, it's number 6, adjournment. That's an easy one. All those in favor? Thank you, unanimous. And thank you again to everybody who took the time to be here this evening. Very much appreciate it. Good night.